Good evening. Welcome to the podcast, What's on Your Mind with Jason. And my special guest tonight is AVA Consulting Specialist Isaac Banks. How's that for an intro?
I love it. That's fantastic.
Oh, man. I am excited to have you on tonight. I have known the Banks family for years. And man, I'm excited to hear what Isaac has to bring to the table tonight. He's got some really cool things going on. And like, how are you doing? Like, what's going on in your life?
Um, thank you, first of all, for having me. This is awesome. I'm very, very excited about it. And again, it's fantastic to catch up with you. I'm
Sure.
doing well, doing well. Just, trying, trying to stay busy and not stay busy at the same time. Try to make time for family and still chase
Yep.
after that dream.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a lot of, work, and I'm working for the weekend next week where I get to take my family on vacation, heading to the
Oh, that's
beach,
cool.
going to Tybee Island, and dip my toes in the sand and have a good time with the kids. So
There you go.
yeah, it's slowing summer's slowing down, so I'm getting ready to go out with a bang. So
Yeah. Married, have kids. How many kids do you have?
I have three kids. Yep,
3
three
kids. Oh,
kids.
busy
Yep,
house, busy house. How long you been married?
10 years.
10 years. Congratulations. Yeah, that's a feat in itself, that's for sure. And then throwing kids on top of it. So, I want to take a moment before we jump into things. I just want to show some love to Encompass Parts. We actually have a sponsor. I'm so excited about this. So tonight's podcast is sponsored by Encompass. They're a parts supply company. If you're an appliance repair company, you need to go search the hashtag Lean on Your Rep. My man Reggie Williams, him and his family, we got to spend a lot of time with them. But go check out Encompass Parts. They are just simply parts, and they're an awesome company. So hashtag Lean on Your Rep. My man Reggie Williams throwing some love out there. I appreciate you, Reggie.
For sure.
So now that we got Encompass in, I'm excited about that. So tell me a little bit, like, what'd you have for breakfast today, Isaac?
Oh, I'm not a breakfast guy usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually, and I haven't been since a kid. But normally, if I am going to do breakfast, I love Ramsey eggs, is what we call it. So,
Ramsey eggs.
yeah,
Okay.
Gordon Ramsay makes these eggs,
Ah.
right? So, like you put them on the heat and then take them off and put them on, and they just have
Yeah.
this like creamy texture. And
Interesting.
you can't beat them. They're the best thing. That and really soggy buttery toast. So
Soggy
that's
buttery toast. All
that's
right.
my
Ramsey.
favorite.
I got to research this Ramsey egg thing. So
Yes,
my
yes.
wife, like, she likes to take sunny side up is what I think they call them, where they don't bust the yolk, and then she, like, folds it over there, so, yeah, sunny
That's
side
too
up.
much. Too much.
I had a protein shake this morning. I'm trying to slim down a little bit, so, I'm working on, the protein shake aspect in the morning, but,
I
yeah,
got it. I
I'm
got it.
telling you, it's been interesting. I got my spectacles here, and, I think I look pretty good in them.
You
But,
do. You're
I think I'm
rocking
gonna
it.
keep them on for a little bit because I can actually read a little bit better now. So, what's been going on in your life recently that uh, maybe you expected it, maybe you didn't expect it?
Gosh, I recently, as well as doing marketing things and speaking engagements. I'm a pretty big fan of the Word, of studying the Bible, and I've been able
Okay.
to help out recently with some congregations and not necessarily take the like a pastoral position, but more of a teaching position whenever
Yeah?
the main teachers are gone, and it
Okay.
just kind of came out of the blue, and just people that are like, hey, you get to spend a lot of time in the Word, come and share it. So
Yeah.
it's been pretty interesting just to kind of be like, oh, here's a group of people that want to learn from you, from the
Yeah.
Bible. And it's scary, because those the Bible says that those are the ones that get judged the hardest. But it's been
Yeah.
fruitful, and it's been um, just kind of out of nowhere, and it's been really fun. So
That's
that's
cool.
I would have to say that.
We got, Jenny from, where are you at? Florida? I think she is. She's joining in with us. She says, "Hey."
Hello.
Hey, Jenny. Good to see you here. Okay, so what's your favorite motivational quote? Like, who's it by, and why do you like it as your favorite motivational quote? I always love hearing this one.
Sure. Depending on the day, it changes. Usually, I would go with some sort of a like a quote from the Bible or a proverb. But
Okay.
I've actually my brothers and I used to have this saying for unity, and it's why argue over one cloud when we have the entire sky to agree upon?
Mm,
And so, like in
wow.
in what I'm doing, as far as communications, there's a lot of tension sometimes. So being able to take that and say, okay, we recognize that we have a difference here, but what are all these other things that we're unified on that we can actually grow together with?
Yeah.
And I've always taken that really, really, really to heart, especially whenever we would study the word, and it would get to the point of arguments almost, and you're
Yeah.
never supposed to argue over the word. So my brother Josh and I, we would say, when one of us would say okay, that means
Yeah.
shut up, and then we would
Yeah.
then we would actually say that. We would look at each other and say, Josh, why would we argue over a cloud when we have the whole sky to agree upon?
Man,
And then
that's
that was a
great.
reset for us. So
I really like that. I really
yeah,
like that. Now you come from a big family.
yeah. There's
Um,
7 of us.
7 of you, okay?
Yeah,
Now, give us a little bit of backstory about you and your family, because everybody is seeing, you know, the man versus wheelchair, the disabled dad. We've been popping that out there quite a bit this week talking about you. So talk a little bit about you, your family, and your background with your disability.
sure. Sure. So, grew up in Southern Illinois, good old SI boy.
Mhm.
My mom and dad, again, 7 of us, 3 of us are in wheelchairs. So 3 older boys, wheelchair bound. We have muscular dystrophy, and for a family to have 2 children with muscular dystrophy is actually pretty rare, but to have 3 is almost, we're like an anomaly. And I have 2 older brothers that don't have the disability, and I have 2 older sisters that don't. So
Yeah.
we're kind of fun for the doctors, to look at and say, "Wow, this is crazy."
Yeah.
So we were also misdiagnosed, and this is part of kind of the journey that I'm on, because the diagnosis they gave all 3 of us was, um, is called Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, and that
Okay.
there's a life expectancy of 18. So my entire childhood, I grew up
Hmm.
thinking that I was going to perish, to die at
Yeah.
about 18, and so did my brothers. And then whenever we blew past that, with flying colors, we were like, well, maybe something is wrong. So I went and got a nerve conduction study, and they diagnosed me with a different form of muscular dystrophy.
Mhm.
And so my brothers have the same. So that was like a new lease on life, because they said, you're good.
Yeah.
You're just like the rest of us. So you can make it to 80 if take care of yourself. So that
Go
was a
on with
real big,
life.
right,
Yeah.
and that was a big mind shift. Going from that oppressive state, of having, feeling like you had to have your life done by a certain age,
Mhm.
to being able to open up and say, oh, well, now maybe I can think about marriage. Now maybe I can think about kids,
Yeah.
a career, and not just, living on SSI or
Yeah.
something. And it really did some great things for our psyches. And my parents are fantastic. I couldn't ask for better parents. Uh, I can't now because of my disability, but I have been a musician pretty much my entire life, and so was my older brother Josh. He played drums, a very
Mhm.
limited set, but we played. And my parents actually moved out of their bedroom so we could move in a band room, and they moved into the nursery, which was like a little
Wow.
12 by 12 room, and they loved it. And they said, they're out doing what they want, and that's the kind of go get a mentality my parents raised us with, is that,
That's awesome.
um, yeah, and it's just this concept of, it's not what you can't do, it's what you can. And we know
Yeah.
that there's not very much that we can do. So those things that you can do, they really pushed us to the limit and forced us to really step out and say, no, you're not just going to play, the guitar I'm going to get you a good guitar. You're going to take, do this. You're going to take lessons. You're going to go for it.
Yeah.
And to get that, so that way we had something to really smile about and be proud of.
Yeah. So Josh played drums. You played guitar, was it?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
I actually played the drums in high school. I taught myself guitar and Josh drums at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a wild time. So I was first chair in marching band, which is always hilarious to say because I am in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
But they would disengage my batteries and put me in freewheel, and I had a stand that my uncle fabricated to hold my snare drum. So I was
That's
out on
cool.
the field. We were doing maneuvers. I was in a concert band, first turn concert band. I played drum set in jazz band. So I
Which
was
which school was that?
Johnson City High
I
School.
thought it was Johnson City, yeah. I didn't realize
Yeah,
Johnson City had a jazz band. Okay,
yeah,
cool. Yeah. Growing up in Benton, I was part of jazz band, concert band, marching band. If it was band, I was a band
right.
geek. Yeah.
Yep.
When they that whole this one time at band camp, yep, that was me.
Oh yeah.
SIU
Yep.
band camp.
Yep.
I got a scholarship one year for SIU band
Nice.
camp too.
Way to go.
I
Way
miss
to go.
band. Actually, band was fun.
I did.
So
Yeah. It was the best.
okay. Who else in the home band, in the family band, the Banks family band?
So my youngest brother Josiah played bass for us,
Yeah.
and then we had a vocalist and another singer, and then at one time we actually had two drummers.
Yeah.
So my Josh would kind of play, and then this other drummer kind of played along with, but did more of the things that Josh couldn't do because he couldn't lift his hands. So a
Yeah.
lot of cymbal work, tom work, things like that, and it was fun,
Yeah.
and it was neat. Later on, that kind of imploded,
Yeah.
after high school and everything, and
What?
we
A
some
family
of us
band imploding?
I'll tell you what,
No.
no, yeah, it's not all not all glitz and glamour.
Yeah.
But it was fun because afterwards, some of us, not my family, but some other members, we got going again. We actually got signed to a small label and got to do a little bit of small
Yeah.
touring and stuff. So yeah,
That's
my
pretty
life,
cool.
yeah, my life is full of really weird things that you just sit down and talk, and you're like, what? How is that possible? So,
Yeah, 'cause, what was there 3 of you in wheelchairs? Is
mhm,
that right? Yeah.
yeah,
So, that was gotta be an interesting, traveling band.
right.
Man, that's
Yeah,
that's pretty exciting. Yeah,
it is.
I
It
didn't
is.
realize that about you guys. You got signed to a label and traveled.
Yeah,
Yeah, very
it was
cool.
fun. Yeah.
Well, let's dive into the meat a little bit here. I have a lot of people that's been asking me, what is man versus wheelchair and who is the disabled dad? So talk to us a little bit about those two.
Sure. So Man versus Wheelchair is a podcast that I started with one of my best friends. We met at MDA camp, which is a camp for kids with my disability. Gosh, over 20 years, 25 years ago, I think.
Wow.
And you can only go to the camp for a certain until you're 18, and then you graduate out. So whenever he graduated out, we kind of lost touch. And back in 2017, I think it was, I just stumbled across him on Facebook, and I hadn't talked to him in almost 20 years. And so we both started doing drop shipping at the same time, and I didn't know what I was doing, and neither did he. But we were trying to figure it out,
Mm.
and we both had this conversation with each other on like, we're doing this because we're disabled, and finding employment, going into an office is very difficult,
Yeah.
because there's a difference between handicap accessibility and accessibility.
Hmm.
So something can be handicap accessible and I can't use it because it's not accessible to me. And a
Mm.
great example is whenever I go to see, I have a pulmonary specialist that I see. And whenever I go into his office, there's a button on the door that you have to reach up and push to open the door. So because it's handicap accessible, but it's in the corner and
Oh,
I can't reach up to get it. So I have to sit outside until somebody pushes the button for me.
well, that's
So
interesting.
yeah, so just because it's handicap accessible doesn't mean it's accessible to all.
Yeah.
and that was an issue that he and I both had with finding employment. So we kind of grumbled to each other and we said, hey, you know what, let's start a podcast and talk about that and bringing this out into the open,
Yeah.
and also not just bring the negative, but how can we encourage other people, both disabled physically and those that struggle maybe, emotionally or spiritually,
Mm.
or because there's a lot of disabilities that are unseen, and the one thing that everyone has in common that struggles is the mindset that you have, because it's very oppressive, and
Mm.
it presses you down. So how do you get above and beyond that? So
Yeah.
so that was kind of the genesis of it, was let's let's take our experience, both of us 20, 30 years, a piece in wheelchairs, and how can we get this out, how can we get the good, because
Mm.
we've digested so much of the world. Let's kind of filter out everything that was bad, and project forward the good for people to be able to move ahead. And so
Yeah.
we got to interview some great people. Not all of it got published, and I ended up getting a job, a really good job, so I put it on hold. But I'm
Yeah.
getting ready to start it back up, and that kind of transitioned into the Disabled Dad, which is a
Mhm.
YouTube channel I'm trying to get going, where it's the rawness of being exactly that. I can't bend down and pick up my kids when they scratch, when they fall and they have a
Mhm.
boo boo, they scratch their knee. I can't pick them up, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean I don't have that desire to do so. So
Yeah.
what does that relationship look like between me and my daughter, who's laying on the ground with a bloody knee,
Mm.
and she looks at me and says, "Daddy, I'm hurting," and I can't pick her up.
Yeah.
Right? That's hard no matter who you are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so how do I process that? And then more importantly, how do I get that across to her,
Mhm.
that daddy still loves you, but I can't help you?
Mm.
And that's a very hard thing. And that's again the rawness of it that I wanted to bring out. And I'm a goofy guy, so I try to do some funny, I tell funny stories, and I have some Q&As, things like that, of commonly asked questions. Like, if I can guarantee you, if I'm driving down a hallway, someone's going to tell me to slow down, Speed Racer, right? It's one of my number one pet peeves. I'm not angry about it,
Yeah.
but they're just trying to connect with me, and so it's been fun. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to share my life experiences and inspire those that maybe are where I was at before I got to where I am. So if they're alone in the room watching that, thinking I can't get out, I'm stuck here. It's
Yeah.
like, no, you can, but you do have to work. Nothing is free. Like, you have to put
Yeah.
the time and effort into it. And those that are maybe
Mm.
friends of those that are disabled.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah.
So when you drive, are you speed racer as well when you're in your vehicle as well? Or is it just the wheelchair?
Well, for legal reasons, we'll say that I'm a good
Uh,
I'm a pretty good driver. I'm a pretty good driver.
my wife says I'm an offensive driver, and I say, "Well, I think I'm a defensive driver, right? I'm a defensive driver, but it probably just offends a lot of people how I drive."
Right. That's right. That's exactly
So
right.
so don't be an offensive driver in your wheelchair, okay, Isaac, when you're going down the
I
highway.
won't. I actually got a I was on Facebook and somebody said something, and I made a funny comment. I made a post and I said, something about, if you do this, I'm going to run over your toe. And they blocked my account
Oh, what?
because they're like, oh, this is, it's a violent speech. And I was like, I wasn't talking about a car. I was talking about my wheelchair. But
Yeah.
okay. So it
Wow.
was funny.
So now you've also wrote a book as well and getting ready to write another book?
Yeah.
Uh,
So I actually have two written, one published. So the first one is called "The Love of Discipline: Training
yeah.
Your uh, Training Your Children Up for Success," and it's kind of a love story to to my parents and
Mhm.
their
Mm.
dedication to me and my brothers, and what we gathered from that, so I can share it with the world. And some concepts like that, my mom always said, don't ever double punish your children.
Yeah.
So if you're going to spank them, don't also send them to their room because they've
Mm,
already paid the punishment.
yeah.
So you are either going to send them to their room or you're going to spank them.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean you don't need to separate them because you're furious,
Yeah.
but so and there are some caveats with that, and little things, and it's not about how to
Mhm.
discipline your children, and what's most important is I'm using the word discipline as training,
Mhm.
because in scripture, when it says train up a child in the way they will go, and when they're old, they will not depart from it.
Mhm.
A better, more accurate translation is train up a child in his own way, and whenever he's old, he won't depart from it. So
Mm.
you have to cultivate your
Yeah.
children. It's not a rubber stamp. It's like, oh, this is the same,
Yeah.
and and that's kind of what it is. So I dedicate it to my mom and my
Mm.
dad, for taking the time to listen,
Yeah.
and not walking into a room and seeing a mess and start yelling or spanking, but
Mhm.
asking questions. There's a chapter where I talk about my brother. He took apart my dad's alarm clock, and my mom walked in, and it was the only one he had. My mom walked in and was getting ready to get really upset, but then she stopped and she said, "Hey, why did you do this?" And my brother at the time, he was 3 or 4. He said, "There's a little man in here talking, and I wanted to see him."
Yeah.
So so
Yeah.
he didn't do it
Child's
maliciously.
logic. Yeah.
Right, right. He did it out of the wonder of a child. So
Yeah.
that was a way that my mom could teach him, one, there's not a little man in there, and
Mhm.
two, this wasn't yours to take apart, and it wasn't
Yeah.
just coming in and spanking, right? So
Yeah.
so I try to be very careful in the book of saying, I'm not telling you how to raise your kids, and I'm not telling you whether or not spanking them is good or bad. That's not up for me to decide. But what
Yeah.
I'm telling you is that if you love a child, and if you love them through the things that they're dealing with, and if you take the time to train yourself as a parent, because we're so caught up training our kids that we don't realize that if you've never
Yep.
been a parent, you're not a parent.
Yeah.
So that was a fun one.
So your book, I know we talked briefly about this in the pre-interview that we were doing. Your book, Man versus Wheelchair, The Disabled Dad, it's not just for disabled people, right? Um, why what is it that you say, why is it not just for disabled people? I mean, that was a great example of what you just spoke about there in the book, but what about the YouTube channel and the podcast? Why is it not just for disabled people? Why is it for everyone?
So
Better way to say it.
sure. So one of the things that I've told myself over the years is that, I don't live in isolation. I require people's help to live.
Hmm.
Right? So I'm completely wheelchair bound. I can't lift my hands. I need help using the bathroom, showering, going to bed, preparing my meals, things like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
So I am completely dependent on other people. And the reverse side of that is people have to be able to put up with me
Huh. Yeah.
to, in order to do that. So if I live in a me centric centered mindset, then people aren't going to want to be around me. So what I try to do is I try to help those people that aren't disabled by giving them a snapshot into the brain of someone who is disabled.
Mm.
So and here's the thing, like I love, please and thank you. I was actually on the way here, I was singing on Ernest Saves Christmas. He's like, it never gets old. It always stays new. Those three little words, please and thank you. It just
Yeah.
stuck in my brain. I don't know why, but it did. But because so many people help me throughout the day, I'm always saying please and thank you
Mm.
constantly, right? It's a constant thing that I do more so than the average person.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
if I don't, so if you come to help me and I don't say that, then you might think that I'm being rude. But forget that I've already told you 30 times earlier, and I've talked to 7 other people that have helped me and told
Mhm.
them 30 times. So if if you help me and maybe I don't say please, it's not that I'm not thankful. It's just I'm so overwhelmed with people helping me all the time and trying to keep things straight. So like giving that insight to the people that are helping you, and I think that's important. And there's a concept within disability realm called dignity of risk.
Hmm.
And what it means is that you have to give a person enough dignity to take a risk on their own. And you see this a lot with parents, with mothers specifically, that they don't want their kids to go out and hang out with their friends because, well, what if they drop them? What if they get in a car accident? And these are all legitimate parent concerns.
Yeah.
But you're not giving your child the ability to experience life.
Mm.
And those are the things that I try to say, like I'm trying to speak to those that are potentially going to be involved in a relationship, either romantically, friendship, family, teacher, anything like that, to where there is a mindset that
Hmm.
we have to have constantly of thankfulness, and
Yeah.
what does it mean to exist as a disabled person, and how can you help?
Yeah. That's just an overall great life lesson. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
it, it,
Like, I'm, like,
Thanks.
taking notes mentally
Oh,
and both on the side here. Good life lessons.
thanks.
Uh, yeah.
I think so.
So, you started a business doing copywriting,
Yeah.
email copywriting, ad copy. The majority of the people who watch this podcast are typically home services contractors, appliance repairmen, plumbers, roofers, electricians, things like that. So, when you say the word ad copy, man, it makes me think to go back in time a little bit. But still, ad copy, copywriting is still a much needed thing in today's marketing world, right? So, talk
Right.
to us a little bit about what you do and how that could potentially help our viewers if they're watching it.
Sure. So, um, for those that aren't in the know on marketing, copy is just anything that you write. You can also switch out with content. So, like if you're a
Hmm.
content creator, you're writing content or you're making videos, but it's anything written. And I specialize in email copywriting. So I work with businesses that maybe don't have the time to sit down and craft emails for either newsletters or sales emails, which is primarily what I do.
Hmm.
And so a business will say, "Hey, we know that this is important. We know that over half of all income from a service or product based business comes from email, right? So I'm working with a company now, and over the last year, just by the copy that we wrote them, they pulled in 1.17 million just from the email that I wrote them, and that's email alone. And
Yeah.
and if you're not writing that, that's money on the table, right? And the unfortunately, it's not percentage based. That's not how we work with our clients. But like for the amount that they do pay us, which I make good money doing it, but they're getting so much more,
Yeah.
and a lot of time it's peace of mind, because
Yeah.
it takes a special mind to try to figure out how to write. How do you do it to be persuasive? How do you do it to really engage? um, we call it FOMO, right? Fear of
Hmm.
missing out. Like that's
Yeah.
a big thing for sales. Is
Yeah.
you want to make sure that the people, it's like, oh well, Bob has that thing. What if I don't have it?
Yeah.
So
So, I will probably be having a discussion about this at another date. But I had Tom Harness on with Harness Digital Marketing. He's a marketing consultant. And so creating a marketing strategy for your business, email marketing is still a much needed thing, as you said. So
right,
that's where you can come into play. And we were actually just talking today about getting email and texting as a marketing strategy incorporated into all that. It's something that we haven't just put in place yet. So
right.
I think we'll
Yeah,
be
and
having a
that's
good discussion here soon.
yeah, and that's really it. In this day and age, we think about things like text and social media, and we kind of push email off to like this almost now it's like mail,
Yeah.
snail mail. It's almost archaic, you know.
Yeah.
But the reality is people will click on an email and buy something typically more often than they do
Yeah.
Facebook posts, because they'll just scroll by it, because it's like, oh well, all of this is, unless it's really eye catching, but if you've taken the time to, well, I guess I can say it this way: one of them is soliciting, and the other
Mhm.
one, the person willingly put in their email to receive the information from you.
Yeah.
So you're looking at like cold outreach versus warm, and that's the key. So
Mm.
if you can build an email list, and get it to where the people are engaging with you, whenever
Yeah.
you do send that out to say, hey, we have this new product, boom, they're going to jump on it. And like I
Yeah.
said, the numbers don't lie. It's like
Yeah.
that's, I sit back and I look at it, and I still can't believe it. It's like, over $1 million in a year. You're like, what?
What?
That's
I'll
crazy.
take it.
Yeah, and again, that's not including, all of their social media and the store itself.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
So if you was to say there's 2 really important parts to an email, as far as if you're sending it out to people who've maybe already signed up for you. Let's just talk of that. Maybe you already have a list of email addresses that you're going to just keep in contact. What's 2 very important pieces of content that you want to make sure that are like they should be spot on?
Um, First is the subject line and
Mhm.
what's showing up in that preview, right?
Okay.
So if you're not writing a solid subject line, that's the thing that's going to attract them the most. So if you're writing something that just says, "I want your money," basically, I'm selling this, or this is on sale, people don't care. They don't want that. But if you appeal to them, if you say, if I'm working with you and you're an apparel brand, you know, um, feel sexy in our new black dress. If you're selling to a woman, right?
Mhm.
That's something that's gonna invoke that feeling of imagining her wearing it,
Yeah.
versus just, our new black dress 50% off, right? So you've got to nail that subject to get them to click into the email. Once they're in the
Okay.
email, you've got to have solid headlines.
Hmm.
The attention span for people these days is like 6 seconds. I think it's worse than goldfish. Um, and they're going to peruse,
Yeah.
unless you're known for having long form emails
Yeah.
that's very informative. People want to look, they want to see what does it look like, is it something that's going to make me feel attractive, and then what's the CTA, what's the call to action, how is
Yeah.
that call to action. And that's where you're going to want to really
Mm.
drive the people. You when they click that button, you want something that says, look your best now,
Yeah.
shop now and feel like you've never felt before, right? So in your taking, you you don't want there's a difference between benefits and oh
Features.
yeah, features. I couldn't think of
Mhm.
the word. So benefits and features, right?
Yeah.
So you never want to put features in a CTA, in your call to
Mhm.
action.
Hmm.
You want to put the benefits of it. How is it going to change your life? It's not that it has three pockets. It's don't ever lose your keys again.
Yeah.
That's the
Ooh,
thing that's
that's
going to
good.
get you, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So I know that's really kind of three things. It's the subject, it's the headlines, and your call to action.
Yeah.
Anything else in between, you can just put a bunch of cool pictures and people don't care.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's the
good.
truth.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's good. Very good
Right.
stuff. So, anything else about Ava Consulting that you'd like to share?
Sure. So
Anything? Yeah.
yeah, I also uh, I started doing public speaking, and
Yeah.
I'm really excited about getting that. And I don't know if you want to talk about that at a later time
Yeah.
in this, or you
We
want to
could
jump
talk
to it
about.
now.
I know we're both Maxwell Leadership team members, and
Yes, sir.
I went through the certification on that a couple years ago. Went to a couple IMCs, and I utilize it for me. I got into it more just as an aspect of utilizing it for my everyday business as becoming a better leader. And I do utilize it also in my mentoring and coaching I do for like electricians and plumbers and appliance repairmen. So tell me how you're utilizing it.
Sure. So there are three basic ways that I'm using. I say basic, but three main ways I should say.
Yeah.
First and foremost is just public speaking. So
Yeah.
getting up on a stage and being able to share my life experiences
Mm,
to do motivational speaking. I
yeah.
started doing that back in high school, and I've been blessed to be able to do it not all the time, but more often than not,
Yeah.
to get in front of people and share my story. And and it's really neat because it's a story that really touches all the feelings, right?
Yeah.
So I tell funny stories about, like on one of my videos for disabled dad. I if I'm going to use the bathroom, I have to have help, and if I'm out in public, it takes two people to help me.
Yeah.
So someone has to lift me, someone has to help. Pull my pants down, and this story came about where I really needed to use the bathroom, and this girl that I was friends with had a brand new boyfriend,
Mm,
and we just kind of pointed at him and said, "You, come on, let's go," because we just thought,
yeah.
because all the other guys in the group just kind of know,
Yeah.
it's a bro thing. We have to help Isaac, and
Yeah.
it's understood. And apparently he didn't know that. So before he knew what was going on, like I was lifted up in the air and he was kind of like staring at my backside, like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And he broke up with her like
Oh.
right afterwards, right? So
Oh, man.
I feel kind
Yeah.
of sad about that. Uh,
Nah, nah. She didn't
but
need
it
him anyway.
That's right, that's right. But it's a funny story, and I try to utilize it in a way to say like some people are inclined to help. And it's
Yeah.
not that he didn't care. It's that he just wasn't ready. He wasn't prepared for that.
Mm,
And I kind of forced it on him. And that's something that also is forced on me. Like my disability, I'm not disabled by choice.
yeah.
And so how do I live with this? How do I take these experiences and then inspire someone else? Because that's what I want to do. If I
Yeah.
can get right, and that's the key to speaking in general. If you're going to listen to someone, you want to inspire them. And if
Yeah.
my troubles can make you feel better, of course, why
Mm,
wouldn't I? Why wouldn't
yeah. That's good. That's
I?
good. Hey,
So the
you
psych.
go ahead.
Oh no, you go right on ahead. You
I
have
was go
questions, I want to answer them.
I was gonna ask about I know you're big on servant leadership, and I love servant leadership as well, in our
Yeah,
business, so, yeah, tell me a little bit
yeah.
more about that.
So I have a program I call servant leadership within management,
Mhm.
and the core concept is exactly what it sounds: taking a managerial position and saying you're not in this position just because you're more powerful than the person that's
Mhm.
underneath you. You're in this position because the person who hired you felt like you were the one that can inspire the employee to do the job better at a better rate. And
Mhm.
what can I do to help the managers realize that? And sometimes that means
Yeah.
getting on the floor, because you tell the story of two different bosses. If you have two managers, one of them is a very fear-based manager, do
Yep.
this or else. And then you
Right?
have another one that's a servant manager. And let's say that you have 100 product that needs to go out and you're at 95 and you have 5 minutes left. Well, the one that invokes fear, he's going to come out and say, if you guys don't do this and that and that and this, and maybe a couple cuss words to get them all riled up, and after that, the whistle blows, and he needs someone to stay behind and finish up. No one is going to volunteer for that.
Yeah.
But if you have a servant leader who, at 30 minutes from quitting time, sees that they're five product out, he goes to the floor. He rolls up his sleeves. He says, "How can I help you?"
Yep. Gets in the
That is
trenches.
that is the role of a manager. It's not to sit in a high tower and
Mhm.
bark orders. It's to make sure that all the distractions that are in the way are removed so the employee can better fulfill their job. And if that
Yeah.
means you getting your hands dirty, then get your hands
100%.
dirty.
That's good.
And and that's really the goal for that, because this day and age we're getting more and more self-centered as we go along,
Yeah.
and it's you do your thing over here, I'll do my thing over on this side, and we need to bridge that gap, because the bottom line is the bottom line, right? The business, how if managers are making their employees upset, then you're getting people that quit. You're getting turnaround rates. Now you have to train new people. That's time
Yeah.
off. So if you can just bring someone the first time that knows what they're doing and can care for their employees,
Yeah.
that's what I want to try to. And not everybody is
Absolutely.
like that, but you can still learn concepts of it, you know.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
I
a
know you talk a lot about diversity. I know we've talked a little bit about that in tonight, but that's part of what you talk about in your speaking engagements as well, correct?
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do a diversity, equity, and inclusion training,
Hmm.
which which
Oh, so
makes
you do
everybody.
training on that too? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and which makes people roll their eyes,
Yeah.
as I
How
roll my
come?
eyes as well. Well, it's a hot topic,
Yeah.
uh, but one of the things that I try to do is I try to level the field
Yeah.
and teach it from a perspective, well, from my disabled perspective,
Yeah. Yeah.
and also studies are starting to show or to come out some data that says that DEI programs aren't as effective as what they think, and they don't
Really?
know why.
Hmm.
And I think one of the problems is the approach, and we've allowed it to become a little more political
Mm.
instead of a caring and understanding inclusivity.
Hmm.
And one of the things that like a DEI program will do is it will say, oh, this table, we need to have a spot for a person in a wheelchair,
Yeah.
and that's written in the DEI program. But a good DEI director will say, let's fill that spot,
Yeah.
because otherwise it's just collecting dust. What's the point,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And it's not. I'm not a person that has ever come out and said, the world owes me anything. And the
Hmm.
world doesn't owe me anything because I'm disabled. And it doesn't owe, you anything because you're good looking. Like it's just the way that
Oh, shucks.
but we need equality,
Yeah.
and so I teach it in a, dare I say, I don't want to make people upset, but I teach it in a non-political, politically
Yeah.
motivated way.
Yeah.
And from my experiences, I'll give a quick example. I worked at the IT department, the corporate ID department for a paper company in Memphis called International Paper,
Yeah.
and we're actually one out of every three boxes from Amazon comes from International Paper. So
Yeah.
it's really fun. Flip it over, you see that International Paper. That's one of my
That's
old
one.
boxes.
You said there was like 50,000 employees or something that
Hmm.
worked at that company.
Yes,
That's
sir.
incredible. Yeah.
I had to change every password. It was wild.
Yeah.
Um, so we had a fire drill, and our IT department, there was a glass door right next um, to where our department was. So everybody had to file out of it. Well, whenever I went to go out of it, it was a step down into rocks, and I couldn't get out. And all the other doors close and lock automatically to force people to go out their fire escape routes. So I had to go back in, like, with the fire department, and open up all of the doors to get out the main way, because it wasn't accessible to me.
Yeah.
And what was awesome was a week later, there was a construction crew there that dug that out and poured a concrete slab and put a ramp there. Right. So that was a great instance of the company recognizing that they were lacking with the accessibility for me,
Yep.
and they did it without having to talk to me. Like, I didn't say anything, I didn't complain, but they're like, no, we need to fix this because it's what's right. And that's
Mm.
kind of where I want to take that is, unfortunately, living in Southern Illinois, it's not as diverse as other places.
Yeah.
When and a lot of the people that I do work with look just like me. So trying to
Yeah.
convince
Mm.
them to hire outside of that can be difficult sometimes. It just can
Yeah.
be, and
Yeah.
that's just some facts of life. So I want to be able to go in and teach them why someone like me is an asset, and
Yeah.
why that makes sense.
Jenny said Connor's internship is at IP. I believe that's her son, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. It's
So that's pretty cool.
one of the greatest companies I've ever been involved in, for
Well, that's
real.
good to know. Good to
Yeah.
know. Yeah, Jenny also said earlier that I should join a community band. Well, Jenny, there is the Southern Illinois Concert Band that I have many people uh, that I grew up with, or even my band teacher, and a few customers as an electrician that kept trying to get me to come in there. Now that I'm not doing electrical work anymore, I actually had one of them message me. He's a fellow trombone player. He's like, "Hey, so now you got more time to actually come join the concert band." I'm like,
Yeah, that's
uh,
right.
maybe we'll see.
Do it, do it.
Mark, if you're watching, maybe we'll see.
I got to vote. My vote says yes.
Yeah, yeah. Um, all right. So, we're getting kind of down to the end of things here. So, what's a final thought that you would like to leave with our listeners and people who will be watching this in the future?
Sure, man. That's a loaded question, isn't it? But I'll do my very best to give an
Come on,
answer.
preacher.
Right. Um, from and I mean, this is of course, take this with the understanding that I have a very unique perspective in life, right? And like I would like for people to realize that helping someone is not based around need, right? I don't want someone to help me because I need help.
Hmm.
I want help because someone wants to help me thrive in life.
Yeah.
And whenever you can take that mindset, and that's why I say that it's not just for disabled people. If you yourself, you do mentorship, right?
Hmm.
You're not mentoring someone because you need to mentor them. You're
Hmm.
doing it because you want them to thrive. You want them to succeed. You want them to take that extra step, and you have what it takes to help shape and mold that to do
Yeah.
that. And that's why I think that the message that I try to share with people is so universal, because even though it's based in physicalities with my limitations, the core concepts are just, you know being good stewards and being
Yeah.
good servants. Everything goes back to servant. And even I serve those that help me through, thankfulness, and through, through humility. I mean, like, those are things that you have to learn. And just because, I might not be able to repay, equally a physical thing for a physical thing, I definitely want people to know how appreciated or appreciative I am. and
Yeah.
and that gets it going. And
Yeah.
it is, you help one person, then you want to help another person, and and then they want to help someone. So it's that, it spreads sunshine, and I love that. I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Wow. Just like a lot of so good. I've really enjoyed talking with you and like catching up
You
with you.
too. You
This
too.
has been
Thank you.
great. So
Yeah.
you said sunshine, and tomorrow is actually National Lollipop Day. I've got that on my
Oh,
calendar. We're probably gonna do some
okay.
kind of crazy TikTok, but yeah, so for
Yeah.
sunshine, lollipops, and oh yeah, I don't know
That,
why
right.
that came to my head. Anyway, all right, so we're getting down to the end here. You know what time it is. I do lightning round questions, right?
Okay. I'm
All
ready
right,
for him.
so I'm gonna get some music playing here. Hopefully it's playing. Yeah. So the lightning round questions are just simply I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions real quick, and you're just going to answer the first thing that come to your head, right?
Got it.
So
Got it.
ready? All right. So dogs or cats?
Dogs, 100%.
Okay, Mac or Windows?
Oh, Mac if I'm playing, Windows if I'm programming or coding.
Oh, okay, interesting. Chick-fil-A or Arby's?
Uh, Gosh, you're making me choose between the Lord's Chicken and Arby's. Um, I'm gonna cheat. Chick-fil-A for flavor, Arby's for a bigger menu.
Okay, well you're kind of hitting on both here. All right, so would you rather see out of your ears or smell with your feet?
Oh, if you saw my feet, you would know I would not want to smell those things. So I would want to see out of my ears,
Okay.
absolutely.
And finally, would you rather spend 1 year at the North Pole or 2 years in the Sahara Desert?
I would spend 10 years at Sahara Desert,
Yeah?
just never to feel cold again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nope.
Okay. Well, that's good stuff. Good to know.
Yeah, that's
Good to
me.
know.
That's me.
Well, if people want to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you
That's a good
for
question
speaking
too.
engagements and such?
Sure. I'm on Facebook. You can find me at Isaac Banks, and you can also get a hold of me through YouTube,
Yep.
The Disabled Dad, and then I'm also on LinkedIn, Isaac Banks on LinkedIn as well. So those are the three main things. Uh, I guess I could give out my phone number. I guess if people want to call me directly, I don't know how that works, but
Yeah. Yeah.
LinkedIn works too.
LinkedIn is great. LinkedIn is
Yep,
great.
it's the
I want
bomb.
to, our next podcast. So, first off, before I go through there, I just want to again say thank you to Encompass for sponsoring us. Get with Reggie Williams, hashtag lean on your rip. He's a marketing guy. I love him. Our next podcast is August 23rd, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's a Wednesday night. And I'm really excited. Dan Antonelli, he's with Kick Charge Creative. This guy's just like, in my mind, a branding guru. And so he has done some incredible things with branding. So he's going to be joining us August 23rd at 6 p.m. So you definitely want to be on that and watch that with us. Isaac, once again, it's been great to have you on here and just to catch up with you. And
Absolutely.
we're definitely going to keep in contact. If anybody, again, as Isaac mentioned, wants to get a hold of him, LinkedIn, The Disabled Dad, Man versus Wheelchair. I mean, so many different ways to follow him and what he's doing out in the world, making it good. So anyway, once again, I appreciate you guys joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very
Isaac,
much. I appreciate it.
Isaac, no, thank you for being here. It's been great. It's been great. Y'all make it a great night.